Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. It's weird because I wrote down so many notes for things that I wanted to make sure that I talked about for this game, and looking back at my notes right now, it's this insane back and forth frustration and then excitement, and it's annoying because as much as this was more or less a historic game by most NBA standards because of the clinic put on by Donovan Mitchell, it's never something you want to be on the other end of as a fan of the team that gets lit up by an individual player. 71 points Mitchell scored tonight. That's the most points I've ever seen scored in an NBA game, because although I was old enough to remember Kobe Bryant's 81 points back in, 2006, I did not see that game live because I really did not care to see the Lakers play unless they were going up against the Bulls. Also, NBA League Pass wasn't as readily available then. So it's unfortunate that as a fan, I got to witness the 7th player in NBA history score 70 or more points, but it happens to be against my team that everyone will now remember. Donovan Mitchell could not be stopped tonight. Like when he started hitting those step back threes or taking deep threes, which would otherwise be a bad shot by normal player standards, and was knocking them down, especially in overtime, you knew that it was over. You knew that there was nothing the Bulls could do regardless of how good their defense was. He was going to make his shots. And their defense was actually good tonight, especially in the first half. The Bulls had arguably their best defensive half all season in the first half of this game. Second half was a different story, but even still, Donovan Mitchell was just on another level tonight. Didn't matter how well you played him on defense. That being said though, are we really going to sit here and not act like that wasn't a lane violation on that final free throw that he missed intentionally, got the rebound and put it back up? I mean, if you've seen any of the replays on Twitter, pretty clear he took off before the ball hit the rim, which would have resulted in a turnover and the Bulls getting the ball back up to with 4.4 seconds left to go, which would mean Mitchell doesn't end up getting 71 points and the Bulls would have won the game, although it still would have been an insane game regardless for Donovan Mitchell. But how is this still happening? How is it that refs are missing so many of these, what I would consider to be blatant calls in the final seconds of the game that determine the outcome? We already saw that after the last game in which the Bulls played the Cavs on Saturday night, in which DeMar DeRozan missed the game winner in that last 2-minute report. He actually should have been called for a foul, which would have sent him to the free throw line for free throws to win the game. To now, a lane violation, and look, that's not even counting all the other terrible calls or missed calls that went against the Bulls in the second half in this one. But the most important one to end the game, they miss. And we already know it's going to come up in the last 2-minute report. We already know it's going to say that they missed a lane violation on Mitchell on that free throw, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's not like the refs are held accountable for these missed calls or fined in any way, and they're certainly not going to reverse the outcome of the game after the fact. But something has to be done because it's getting out of control, and we've seen far too often in the case of the Bulls so far this season that could have turned a fair amount of losses into wins. The poor officiating aside, and obviously the bad missed call at the end of regulation, still no excuse for the Bulls to lose this game after being up 21 points at one point in the first half. And even on that final play, yeah, sometimes those calls aren't going to be made late in the game. You have to box out better. You know that he's going to intentionally miss a free throw. You box out like you never have before and get that rebound. To be honest, I actually didn't like the call by Billy Donovan to foul in that situation. I know you're up 3, might as well foul them, that way they can only score 2 and you get the ball back up 1 with 4 seconds left. But all too often recently, we've seen guys doing this really well, missing free throws and putting it back up, namely from Luka Doncic. Take your chances with them hitting a 3 with 8 seconds left, taking the ball up the whole court with no timeouts or any type of time to set up a play of any kind or make substitutions, and if they hit it, well, you find yourself in the same position the Bulls found themselves anyway going into overtime. I know it's easy to say that now because of what happened, but no, this one is on Billy Donovan. They had 8 seconds left to draw up a play from full court after Kobe hit those free throws, no timeouts. You take your chances on that one rather than stopping the clock and getting their team set. I will say this again, even though I know I'm sure some people will probably think I'm crazy, the Bulls are still playing better basketball. Like, for what it's worth, they're still playing better team ball and playing competitively, with the exception of overtime in this one, of course. Wasn't a fan of the poor shots from Lavine and DeMar down the stretch when the game was tied, taking some very poor contested threes until Vucevic came up huge and knocked down that 3, which I thought would have been the dagger of the game. Yeah, it's hard to say that they're playing good basketball when they blew a 21-point lead, but a lot of that has to do with the poor officiating, and it's not like you're going to have a player like Donovan Mitchell go off like he did against you normally. And while the blown lead was bad, the Bulls are still playing much better defense, they're playing smarter, taking care of the ball better, only 7 turnovers tonight, and they're shooting the ball better, or at least they were shooting the ball decently well until the overtime. when guys were just bricking everything from three. The big three, which, yes, I wasn't too pleased with some of the shots from DeMar and Zach, like I mentioned, particularly DeMar actually with the way that he was really slowing down the pace of the game playing ISO. But aside from that, Lavine, 26 points, 7 for 18 shooting. His finishing at the rim is still looking good, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Vucevic, 20 points, 13 rebounds, 6 for 8. That was a problem though. They need to get Vucevic more shot attempts despite Jared Allen being a tough matchup for him. Oh, that was another terrible call in which Allen clearly traveled when he was corralling the ball before putting it back up and scoring in one of those final possessions in regulation to bring it within 1 point. But anyway, Vucevic needs to be putting up more than just 8 attempts. And then DeMar, 16 for 32, 10 for 12 from the line, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 steals. Very active hands tonight, put up 44 points, only had 1 turnover as well in just 46 minutes. And then Io, decent game, although definitely wasn't as locked in on Mitchell as he was in the previous one. But then again, who was able to stop Mitchell tonight? Patrick Williams, an okay game. Wasn't that efficient as you would like to see. He definitely missed that box out assignment on Mitchell on that last free throw, even though, yes, it was a lane violation. But look, despite the Bulls playing better basketball, despite the fact that looking like a much more competitive and focused team since that blowout at halftime against the Timberwolves, it's still not enough, and it's still clear the construction of this roster just doesn't work. 33 threes tonight from the Bulls compared to the Cavaliers, 46. They need outside shooters. They have been moving the ball well to find an open man. They have been getting wide open looks with the plays and schemes they run on offense, and guys are clinking them. You saw that in overtime, and it made all the difference in this one. So many open threes in overtime, and the Bulls just could not knock them down. It's crazy because the trade deadline now is just a few weeks away. They keep moving it up every year. This year will be on February 9th before the All-Star break yet again, when it used to always be after. The front office has to make moves. I don't want to hear about continuity and how they need to see what this team looks like when Lonzo Ball comes back. No, changes need to be made now. Otherwise, we're just going to remain in this phase of mediocrity in the NBA, plain and simple. The Bulls are off tomorrow before they take on the red-hot Brooklyn Nets on Wednesday at the United Center. Let's see if the Bulls can snap that 12-game winning streak. I'm actually going to be traveling that day for work, so I might not have a live game chat for that one depending on when I get settled. But until then, guys, as always, be sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.